All right, I believe we are good. YouTube is orange, but that usually goes green pretty quickly here. Yep, I can see us. We are indeed live. Oh, and I tweeted that out from the wrong, tweeted that out from my own, Twitter. Whoops. Whoopsies. This really quick before... Okay, perfect. All right, welcome everyone to another edition of the 4GwQPodcast. This is episode number 202 for April 4th, 2019. We got a quick episode to do this week. I'm going to talk about a few topics here. We're going to obviously talk about Borderlands and the big announcement that happened that was kind of the worst kept secret of PAX, right? So we'll talk about Borderlands Game of the Year edition. We'll talk about Borderlands 3. Those things were announced at PAX East 2019. We'll get into a little recap of how my experience was at PAX East this past weekend when we didn't have a podcast. We'll get into, of course, the Anthem debacle with Jason Schreier from Kotaku. He had a little bit of an expose, if you will, of BioWare and what's going on at that studio, and it's looking pretty bad. And we'll also talk about Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, which Clownz and Assassin have been playing a ton. So, without further ado, let me introduce the gentleman here. Of course, I'm in front of 217, but we also have with us, making his 202nd straight appearance, we've got ZPCI Assassin. What's going on, bud?
So I was supposed to make a new intro, but I'm feeling a little nostalgic here, so I...
Wow. Wow. Are you feeling nostalgic potentially because of Borderlands Game of the Year coming out and you being so excited for that?
No, because I forgot to think of an intro.
Okay. Fair enough, fair enough. Nobody in fourth chair this week, but of course, we also have Italian Clownz. What's going on, man?
Yo, what's up?
Nothing much, dude. Okay, Doc, wow. I was getting into my PAX East story ahead of time. Daz is in the chat, so I've got to add him as moderator again now that he's changed his YouTube channel. Go check out the new YouTube channel for UK Dazzers if you haven't already, of course. And also, like we have displayed on the screen right now, we do want to give a shout out to the Inner Circle Network. Clownz is a member of the Inner Circle podcast, their official podcast, but they also have affiliates. And if you check out their website today, they have a spotlight on us, actually. So go check out the Inner Circle Game Network. You can see below in the description a link to their website, and we are an affiliate podcast. We're very happy to be so, and thanks for letting us join the crew and giving us a little bit of publicity, and yeah, so go check them out as well. Clownz, I saw you guys had to do a Tick podcast without Cal this week, without Cal L. What's going on over there?
Yeah, unfortunately, he wasn't feeling well. And he was at the hospital. I don't know much more than that, but he's just not feeling well.
Man, it's too bad. It's rare that he misses one. So, but the show had to go on. And what was it? You, Sam, and who else? Who else was on that last episode of that podcast?
Nick.
Nick. Okay. So, still carrying while Cal is out, but. Nonetheless, all right. Let's get into the topics this week. I'm seeing the chat starting to populate here. Thanks everyone for coming by, and we appreciate your continued support of the podcast, even though our schedule's been a little spotty lately with my escapades, which we'll get into in just a second here. So PAX East. One of these days we have to get Clownz to come back out for PAX East, I think. Because last time he was here, it was like ridiculous weather, man. I mean, this year it was like 60s, 50s, and 60s. Clownz still would have been cold coming from Florida, but he wouldn't have been as cold as like -2 that he was a couple years ago that he was here. Jizzle's already in the chat saying PAX sucked. Man, I don't think PAX sucked. PAX, it wasn't as good as the year Clownz came out, I'll tell you that. That year was actually a very good PAX.
Yeah, because we had a lot of stuff that was coming out.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of stuff there that, like, when you think back to it, was actually, like, Team 17 had a nice showing. I mean, like, with the Escapists, the, Ukulele, like, they had some really big hitters in that one. That's one of our favorites. I mean, favorite publishers. Zoink was there. Like, a lot of our very favorite pubs and developers were there. So, but this year, not really. But go ahead, Clownz.
There's nothing better than riding the subway with Jizzle.
We didn't even ride the subway that much this year. Thursday and Friday, and that was it. And then, took an Uber or a Lyft on Saturday. And then Sunday, my girlfriend drove me in because Jizzle only went for a couple days this year, but that's why I think he thought PAX sucked. I mean, the lines were crazy. He's pointing out.
You know what?
Good.
I think he was there and you just couldn't see him because he was in the big creeper outfit.
Dude, the creeper outfit was legit. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of good stuff this year. I mean, we'll get into the Borderlands stuff in just a minute, so you guys can, chime in a little more on that. But in terms of games, like, there were a lot of good creative games this year. A lot of things that, we're going to have some of the developers definitely on the show to talk about them. We're going to get SMG Studios back on to talk about their game Moving Out. I know we had on Ashley Ringrose in the past to talk about Death Squared, if you guys remember that one. But Moving Out, I think, is a lot more fun than that game, a lot more easy to, like, co-op, and I think they've just taken the Overcooked game style and brought it to a whole nother level. It was definitely one of my top games of the show, so we'll definitely be doing that. The Jizzle says we should do PAX Awards. He'll start worst managed booth .emu. Yuck, yeah. So
no.
Dude, you know what .emu is? That was Streets of Rage 4. Because they had that there. That game was incredible. But me and Jizzle were there on was that Thursday or Friday we did that? I think it might have been Thursday. We played Streets of Rage 4, and Clownz, of course, you remember Streets of Rage.
Yeah, I love that game.
Dude,
I'm looking forward to it. .emu makes some great games.
Dude, they brought some awesome games to PAX this year, but for their big hitters, which were Streets of Rage 4 and Windjammers 2, the line was just ridiculous, and they only had like 2 setups going, and it was inside a little hut. Like, they had a big booth that was wide open, and then they had a closed off hut in the middle of the booth so that no one would take pictures or anything, because they didn't want people taking pictures of Streets of Rage 4 at this point. And so they, like, Assassin would have hated it, because what they did is they huddled people into this really tiny booth, like maybe 8 foot by 8 foot square area. And they had to have been like 12, 14 people in there at once. And it was just, like, really packed. And there's no windows or anything. It was kind of claustrophobic. And
it would have really sucked that someone fired in.
Oh, my God. Dude, a lot of people fired at PAX, but we won't get into that. Yeah, dude. Clownz, you put out a tweet before PAX. It was just like, if you're going to PAX... Essentially, what did it say, Clownz? It was like, if you're going to PAX, like, be mindful of your hygiene or whatever, and be mindful of others or whatever. Please, people are fighting. Deodorant. Oh my God, people are fighting left and right, dude. It was bad. It was really bad. It's funny that the Jizzle says .emu and you said in the chat, Clownz, Lucid Sound, dude. They were right next to each other actually. So that's kind of funny. What else? Let me see. Rumor has it they gave away 1/4 of a headset. You had to buy the other 3/4 separately. Yeah, dude, we didn't even go to Lucid Sound, but yeah, there were a lot of good games, and I intend on making a little, like, small video for the channel about that, because it's a lot to talk about in the podcast. But definitely Moving Out was on the top of my list. Yacht Club Games is making a new game called Cyber Shadow Clowns, and I don't know if you took a look at it, but it's kind of like Ninja Gaiden a little bit. And it's really, really retro feeling. I felt so at home. I was like grinning at the demo because shout out to them and shout out to their PR team that got us in there. Lewis over at their PR team that got us in there for a press appointment to check out the game, because otherwise it would have been terrible to check that one out because the lines are just ridiculous, and rightfully so because the game is just incredible. So nostalgic feeling. And I know if Daz, you're still in the chat, I know you are. This is definitely a game you guys want to play on Retro Renegades, because even though it's not like truly a retro game, it feels so retro. You know, it's one of those games that, you know, you see these games come out these days and they're trying to be retro, but this one really, really feels retro. Like, it's not just a skin that makes it look like that. It really, really feels retro. So I know you guys will definitely appreciate it over there. But yeah, other than that, I mean, did you guys know that Twitch wasn't going to be there? I didn't know that until a couple days prior, and I think that's kind of weird that Twitch isn't at PAX East, because PAX East is probably like the third biggest, debatably, I would say like the third biggest video game convention in the United States, and they weren't there. I was kind of surprised because Mixer was just like, you know, a huge presence at PAX this year.
Yeah, you would think that they would, because they usually have, like, you know, streamers streaming, you know, from PAX on Twitch.
Yep. And instead of that, Mixer took advantage of that, and the hype zone was all about that, and they were giving away consoles to people who were winning Fortnite battles and stuff. It was huge, and Mixer was right at the bottom of the stairs. They were perfect position and everything. So, you know, shout out to the guys over there that we know that we'll probably have on the show pretty soon here, to talk about, you know, their careers at Mixer, because they've just been killing it. You know, Mixer can be tough at sometimes, you know, to watch, and for streaming, you know, it's a little jittery or whatever every once in a while, but, you know, shout out to them for really making a push, because remember when Mixer came out, or when it was called Beam, and people just said, you know, it can't compete with Twitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now they're just pushing. You know, they don't care about that. They don't care that people say that. You know, they're really, really pushing to be a huge presence at these things, and I think they've done it. But obviously, you know, Twitch has the install base of crazy amounts compared to them. But shout out to Mixer for sure. Jizzle wants to make a quick shout out, and I think we should, to Bless Unleashed from Bandai Namco. This game was pretty cool. It's like an MMO RPG, kind of like Dark Souls-ish a little bit. It's like World of Warcraft meets Dark Souls a little bit, and like that third-person feel, but you know, it's advertised as being kind of like World of Warcrafty in terms of the mechanics and the social aspects and what you'd expect from an MMO, but I think it's definitely one to check out. And Jizzle won a flask after beating the boss. So anybody who beat the last boss within the demo time got some sort of prize, whether it was like a T-shirt or like a pin or like a flask, and the Jizzle got a flask. So that was kind of cool. Did you guys like see anything that people were posting about PAX that you were kind of like, oh, I wish I was there to play it, or did you see anything that kind of like caught your eye from the PAX coverage from some people? Because I know I met up with, you know, Doc Cupcake was there. Shout out to him. You know, the Iron Lords, obviously, those guys are great. Awesome chopping it up with those guys. They had a huge presence there. I'm proud of them. You know, every time I see them doing their thing and getting to these conventions, no matter how much it costs, you know, it's really like they've come a long way. And you know, I talk to those guys very often, and they were just tearing it up there, and it was good to see them. But did you guys see anything like from PAX that, other than Borderlands, which we'll get into in a minute?
Well, the people I follow on like YouTube and Twitter, like it besides you and the Iron Lords, like I didn't see really anything from PAX. You know, so you know, I kind of not forgot it was going on, but it was just like a normal convention that some people just mentioned, and that was it. I tried watching some of the Iron Lord stuff, but like specific videos, like I don't know if their mic was too far away, but it was quiet.
Yeah,
So
I noticed that.
Kind of turned me away a little bit, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's nice that they definitely put out a lot of content.
I mean, they had like 6 guys there. Like no
I
joke.
saw
They had a
that.
ton of guys there, and I finally met a couple guys from their stream team. Shout out to their guy PD Snaldo. Good guy, great guy. Actually, you know, way more like imposing and like no offense to him or whatever if he watches this show, no, like way more like professional than I expected from watching like his streams and just seeing his head, like just seeing his whole person. He was like extremely professional, and like I hope that doesn't come off as insulting, but I mean in person he just comes off way more professional. But also, I mean, they had King there, Cognito, obviously. They had Sovereign, they had Kabatsu, they had MJ as a boss from their stream team, who we're going to have Assassin do one-on-one Call of Duty game with. What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. My Call of Duty game's been off for the past few months.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, though. You're still better than him. He's also the one that caught a lot of hate on their Crash Bandicoot video where he finished in 8th and 7th. And too successful. Did you watch the Crash Bandicoot video?
No, I did not.
Oh my god, watch it, dude. His gameplay was he as soon as they posted that, maybe like 5 hours later, he messages me and is like, "Wow, people are hating on my Crash Bandicoot because his gameplay was not very good." Like, love the kid, but he's not. It wasn't very good. But yeah, really quick before we get off this topic, you know, obviously I got the hat on to play. I play Control from Remedy and 505 Games. Clownz is already hating on it, right?
Yep.
Is Clownz here? Is he muted? He must be muted.
I think he sent us a DM saying that he had to do something.
Oh, okay. He'll be back.
I think he's not feeling well or something.
Oh, okay. He'll be back. Yeah, so I play Control, and I know, Assassin, you're like kind of iffy about this game too, right? I mean, you were kind of into it, but not really.
Oh, I mean, it looks like a lot of Quantum Break, and I enjoy Quantum Break. So, I mean, I haven't really seen much about the game because, you know, spoilers and stuff. And there's so many times we've seen trailers and gameplay, and that was like the whole game. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some people in the chat are saying Shizno Elite says he's hyped for Control. Jizzle says game's in tough shape, has promise, but frame rate's a mess. Yeah, the frame rate on the game was not very good, especially in areas where you had a few enemies on screen, like 3. The frame rate really did tank, and you know, I talked to the devs about that were there from Remedy, and I talked to one guy that was there from the publisher as well, 505, and they were telling me that the build that they had there was kind of rushed in order to get it into their PlayStation booth. It was like a PC build that was not quite like optimized, I guess, for PS4 properly. And so they have to actually restart the demo every time someone played in order to get the frame rate on point, because every time someone played there was memory leak really bad from like a 15-minute demo or a 20-minute demo, whatever it was. So it was really it was not in my opinion what they should have shown, but I think they had to rush it to get it to PAX, and you know, it did its job. You know, obviously they gave away hats, they had some shirts, they had merch, and like Shizno Elite says, a lot of people are hyped for it, and even though the frame rate was kind of trashy, it did, for the people that were hyped for it, it did its job. But for people that were on the fence, I don't think they did themselves any favors, because, you know, the gameplay is just like Quantum Break. It's like Quantum Break, but you can fly, honestly. It's not really, like, there's nothing there that really, at this point, differentiates it too much, you know? And not to say I didn't like Quantum Break. I mean, Quantum Break is what it is, but I think people are looking for, like, that next step from Remedy, and there's just too many similarities for me. You know, not only like in visual style and skinning and stuff, but in terms of, you know, just the core gameplay of it and just the feeling of it when you're moving around and everything. It feels so much like Quantum. And in some ways, I think Quantum is actually better. You know, with the ability to like slow time down and stuff like that. The control thing, like the demo was cool. You know, there was a decent amount to do. They had different areas that you can explore and stuff. And I wish there was like a boss of some kind, but like a lot of the demos, they have a level that you play through and then you build up to a boss and then your demo is over. Like that's the kind of like the traditional, if you've never been to a convention before, that's kind of like the traditional demo you'll get. Either that or it's just a time demo. And Control went for like the time demo route, which I don't really like. And also, kind of just a personal con, and I kind of want to get your opinion on this, Assassin, too, is they actually showed stuff off that's in the real game. Like, do you feel like that's a good thing or a bad thing? Because to me, on a game like that, I don't necessarily want to see stuff that's necessarily going to be in the game exactly like it is. You know what I mean?
Well, as long as it's not, like, spoilers and story stuff, like, I mean, it should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like really story spoilers unless you like really read into it, but
yeah,
like I don't necessarily want to play it. I mean, it depends game to game, but in a game like that, I don't necessarily want to play something that's necessarily like going to be in the game in that exact state. Like if you want to show me an earlier version that's gonna change significantly, like I think that's fine, but like stuff that's exactly gonna be in the game exactly like it is in a game like that, I'm not really a huge fan of that. But
okay, I'm back. Sorry guys.
Okay,
What game are we talking about?
We're talking about Control. Your favorite game. Yep.
Oh, I hate that game,
dude.
You know what? Polygon's gonna complain about Borderlands being Borderlands. I can't wait to see the article about Control being Quantum Break. Except now that it's Control, it's going to get a 10 out of 10.
See, that, I mean, there is that feeling around it. Like Quantum Break, I think if Quantum Break were at the shows in the same capacity that Control was, I don't think it would have shown as well. Like, I don't think people were only hyped for Quantum Break who were on Xbox. And granted, it was, you know, exclusive or whatever. But, you know, Control is just, I feel, is just garnering a lot more interest. I feel like people think of Control as like, and this can maybe completely off base, but this is just my perception of it, is that people are thinking Control is like what Remedy really wanted to do. You know what I mean? I hear that a lot. I hear that Quantum Break is kind of like what they needed to do because of their deals with Xbox or whatever. And Control is finally what they wanted to do for this gen, and I hate that, but like that, I feel like that is the perception. Geeky Nerd says no forced in live action though. I mean, true that. You got a point there. But I mean, I think Clownz is definitely 100% accurate here. I think a lot of people are going to just love it because it's a different game, but it is essentially the same game. It plays so similarly. I think that demo, if anything I took away from that demo, it's that Control and Quantum Break are definitely made by the exact same people. I wouldn't be surprised if nobody was different. You know, like you see these studios. We'll talk about Anthem in a little bit with BioWare. But you'll see some of these studios where you get a little bit of turnover, or they bring in like different subsections of the studio to work on different kinds of IP. And I feel like with Quantum Break and Control, like I understand it's a small studio at Remedy Games. It's not huge, but you can tell that it's really inspired by the same minds, and it plays and looks so similar. Like even the art style is just so similar as well, which I think is a bad thing. But I know I definitely won't be getting it at launch. I'll tell you that from what I played. I mean, I hate to judge it like that, and I know Jez. Shout out to Jez from Windows Central. We've had this conversation, him and I, about this. But I think at a show, and guys, feel free to chime in on this. I know, Assassin, you haven't been to a show like this, but Clownz, you were there at PAX a couple years ago, and I think, honestly, like the reason they're showing you these things at these cons is to get you to think, should I buy this game or not? Like, they're not just showing it to be like, oh, this is what we're making, like, have fun with this demo and don't go anywhere from here. Like, they want you to buy it. So I think it's totally fair for me to make a judgment call whether or not I'm going to buy a game from a demo I play at a convention, even though the game isn't coming out for maybe a year. Or with Control, I mean, the game comes out. When does Control come out?
August or something.
Control release date. It just says 2019. Oh no, Control release date August 27, 2019. So it's coming out in 4 months, 4.5 months. So a game in that state, playing like that, looking like that, 4.5 months from now. I mean, tell me if you guys disagree or if you guys agree with me on this. I think if they're showing it and they want you to buy it, it's fair to judge it. Like Jez disagrees with me on that. He says, you know, it's an early build, like see what happens when it comes out. For me, in that state right there, like, you know, I'm making a judgment call whether I'm going to get it on day one or not. You know, and my feeling on that game is that it's not good enough for me to get it on day one.
Well, I agree and disagree with you on that. Like, yes,
Okay.
you should be able to judge it, but I feel like just like any other beta, like it could be a completely different game when it launches.
Okay. That's fair. I agree with that. I think it could be a totally different game, but like I would then wait for the game to come out and reviews, and then other people on YouTube or whatever, people in my circles that I trust to play that game when it comes out, versus me like getting it on launch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I completely agree. I mean,
Okay.
you should be able to, you know, judge it. I mean, and it will definitely change your opinion on it, but like just saying, oh, the game's now going to suck because, you know, X, Y, and Z, you know, but then 4 or 5 months from now, it could be, you know, totally different. You know, if the game was like coming out next week, I feel like you should judge it in like harsh more, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
Well, no, because I don't. I agree that it should kind of be judged now because look at Sea of Thieves, right? I mean, it didn't really change from all the times that they showed it to when it actually launched, and people judged it pre-launch, and it kind of got empty after a while until they started adding new stuff. So, I mean, I think it's fair to go ahead and make a base assumption on a game that's displayed at PAX. Look at Toe Jam and Earl, right? When I went to PAX with you guys, we saw Toe Jam and Earl. And remember that game was pretty buggy back then?
Yep. Oh yeah.
And it's still buggy today. I mean, it was polished enough to be playable, but I think it's a good base set to make your judgment upon.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because I understand that, you know, these things don't happen overnight. I understand that these things take time. Obviously, like I've been saying it a million times, but we'll get into the Anthem thing in just a little bit. But it's, you know, this is your shot to make a mass appeal. Like, how many people go to PAX? Like, with PAX East, it's probably close to, like, no exaggeration, 80,000 to 100,000 people. I mean, it's a big convention. These are big conventions. And it's your shot to kind of, like, make that impression on people, you know, that may not even look at your game, right? So with a beta, like, it's your choice to download it or not, you know, whether you're interested in that game. You know, it's a beta in the traditional sense is not supposed to be like a demo, even though it kind of is these days, right? But a beta in the traditional sense is supposed to like test out the problems or whatever, whereas like a show like this is supposed to test people's interests. And when you bring something that runs like Control did and looks so similar to a prior game, when you're supposed to be playing the Control is different from Quantum Break Card, that's what Remedy's trying to do. Like, I just think that's a fail. Like, in that specific instance, like, I understand you're a one-man dev team that has an indie that's not coming out till 2020, and you want to just show it at PAX to see if you can keep going on, right? That's a different story. But like a big company, like, you're at the front of PAX, you're with the big boys, you're with the PlayStation booth, you're with the, you know, the Xbox booth. I mean, Control wasn't at the Xbox booth, but if you're with the big boys, like, you should be showing something that is not necessarily nearly complete, but doesn't have so many problems and so many like glaring comparisons to your older stuff. And that's just my opinion. I mean, maybe I'm being a little too harsh, but really quick, let me get to the chat. Jizzle says, I don't respect companies that ship first and then fix later. I mean, that's essentially what's happening.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a big problem right now because everybody, now that we have an always online kind of system, developers are like, okay, we can push it out now. We'll just patch it after, day one patches. And I'm kind of getting tired of that, to be honest with you. I think Jizzle's right. I wish we could go back to the way it used to be, even though it was archaic. I mean, I love the fact that I could load in like a Super NES game into Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and most of them worked 100%.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And we'll get into Sekiro in just a little bit, but I mean, a similar argument has kind of been made about like Sekiro with the whole adjustment of difficulty thing. But like, remember the old days, like you got what you got and that's what it was. Like if it was too hard for you, then tough shit, essentially. Or if it was too easy for you, then you made the wrong decision buying it and, challenge yourself to play like a different way or something. Maybe like play with only one hand or something. I don't know. But it's like it's like these games are just coming out that are unfinished, and then they expect you to just understand that it's going to be fixed later on. It's kind of like, okay, especially at a con like this, you go and you play a game and you have a bad impression. They say that it takes 7 good things for a bad impression to go away of something. Like if you have a bad first impression, it takes like 7. This is like a little too psychological, if you will, for this podcast, but it takes like 7 more good things after that to happen in a row to kind of like turn you back on, right? And I think Control, for like traditional people or for people who've played Quantum Break or people that are, hardcore gamers, I think Control did not show well. I don't think it showed well. I think other games at the PlayStation booth showed way better. Like Mortal Kombat 11 looked incredible at the PlayStation booth. Looked absolutely incredible. Crash Team Racing, like there was some mechanics issues, but the game looked great, played decently well. Like the racing was on point, and that game comes out in June. I
know, before we get off the Remedy topic, one thing, if I could send one email to them describing their game as you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah. Yep. I mean,
I think they're washed
up
at this point.
Yep. I mean, it was almost a showcase of like the mechanics more than the showcase of what the game is about or what the game, like how the game can hold your interest. Like one of the sections of the demo, for the Control demo, for people who are interested in Control on the podcast, you're going to want to hear this. One of the sections of the Control demo, there are 4 sections that you do. It put you in an open, like, I don't know, office building or something, right? And there were 4 sections. It was like, go here, go here, go here, go here, right? And you can do all of them, but you had to pick whatever order you wanted. It was kind of like a free roam, right? And so one of the sections was this thing called a mirror demo. Or a mirror maze, mirror maze. And when you go up to it, it's literally all it is, and you get no reward from this, like no like buff, no XP, no nothing, none of that was discussed. No, they didn't want to talk about it really. When I asked, because I asked, what is this mirror maze? Like, why, is this going to be more thought out, or is there going to be like a reward for this late in the game, or what is the deal with this? It's literally like you just walk up to this room and certain areas of the hallways close off and you have to find your way like through this maze where it's like mirror, what do you call those things, like at a circus or whatever, like a haunted house where like there are a bunch of mirrors in the house, right? And you have to like find your way through it. You know what I'm talking about?
A mirror
like the
maze?
Hall of Mirrors or whatever.
Yeah, that was literally part of the demo. Like, how is that going to turn me on to playing the game? And I mean, I could be totally off base, but like I go through that and I have a 20-minute demo of PAX that I had to pre-register for. Everyone who played Control had to pre-register for the demo, and it was like the appointments were gone in like 10 seconds. If I'm playing a 20-minute demo and I go through that, am I seeing that and being like, oh wow, this mirror maze was cool? Like I'm really interested to see what this mirror maze is all about. That kind of stuff is like, it gives me the indication that in the game there's going to be like a lot of meaningless stuff like that, if that's what they wanted to show off, Yeah. It was really disappointing, and I don't mean to like go all in on Remedy. Like I did like Quantum Break, and I think that their storytelling is good, but I just think their demo was bad, and it was too much like Quantum Break right from the get-go to have my interest. What do we got in the chat? Saltiest Gaming says, I said for the longest time Remedy was average to below average at best. I mean, I'm dying to see what the review scores are like for this game. Dying to see it. If it's a lot above Quantum Break, I don't think that's fair. Let's just say that. What was Quantum Break's Metascore? You guys know?
I have a feeling somewhere below an 8.
Probably like a 75.
Quantum Break on Metacritic. Let me see. Well, on PC, I'll tell you this right now. On PC, it's a 66.
Ouch.
So 77 for Xbox.
I'll see on Xbox. Did you look it up? It's 77?
Yeah.
Yeah, 77. So, I mean, I don't want to exactly average that out, but that's probably close to like a 72 or something like that. If you would, or like a 73. So, but let me see. Enough about that. Let me see. Jizzle says the physics were good. I mean, the physics were good, but you're used to that if you play Quantum Break games. I know you didn't play. Remedy games. I know you didn't play Quantum Break, Jizzle, but I mean, you're used to that if you played that. That's not to say there aren't a few new mechanics in Control. There definitely are, but it just feels really familiar. Indie Gamer wants to know what indies I played. Too many to talk about right now. I played like a ton of indies, and I'm gonna put out a video about it. But I mean, my top indies of the show were probably Moving Out from SMG Studios. I really liked that. Talked about it a little earlier. Cyber Shadow from Yacht Club Games was very good. Katana Zero was very good. That's also like a side-scrolling, like Metroidvania kind of game. Roguelike a little bit. Skellboy, surprisingly, for the Nintendo Switch was actually a lot of fun. I highly recommend that. That's kind of like a isometric view, like really cartoony looking, like adventure RPG beat 'em up kind of game. It's really, really cool, and you play as a skeleton, as a skull, and your attributes change if you pick up like hats or like different shoes or. It's actually really cool, and it's really hard to describe over a podcast, but you definitely should check out Skellboy for the Switch. Samurai Showdown. Jizzle was talking about Samurai Showdown in the chat. That game was good. A fighting game. I posted about it on Twitter if you want to go check that out. It is very, very much like Street Fighter. So Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 4, if you've played those last iterations, you'll love Samurai Showdown. It's very, very similar to that. Streets of Rage 4 was excellent. That's definitely in my top of the show. That was a very good game. Blazing Chrome is just like a spiritual successor to Contra Hardcore. If you've ever played that for like Genesis or SNES or whatever, you will like Blazing Chrome, so keep your eye out for that. The guys from 3D Realms were there. The guys who made like Quake and Duke Nukem, and they make this game called Wrath. It's kind of like Doom mixed with a little bit of what's that game? Strafe that Devolver Digital published last year. So if you're into those old school like dungeon crawler kind of shooters like Doom, you will first person shooters like Doom, you'll like Wrath, so definitely check that out. Did I check out The Takeover? Yep, The Takeover is good. The Takeover is good. I checked that out on Sunday. That's a good game. You should definitely check out The Takeover. I have one of the cards somewhere around here, but I don't know where it is. Maybe I'll find it during the show. Rad looked good. Jizzle's speaking about Rad. Rad is like an isometric dungeon crawler, cartoonish looking game from Double Fine Studios, so that's kind of good. But yeah, enough about that. We've been talking about PAX East way too long. Let's move on to something else. We will move on to, let me see here. Let's get into Borderlands.
You mentioned that. Oh, okay.
Good.
I was going to say that Sekiro incident.
Oh, you know what? Let's go to Sekiro first. Because, let's go to that first. Let me see. Let me see if I can bring that up really quick. I wasn't prepared to do that, but I will bring that up. You guys have been playing this. I mean, 92 Metascore. I think that's really a lot higher than a lot of people were expecting. I mean, obviously, it's a From Software game, so... you know, people were expecting greatness, but I don't know if people were expecting 92 out of something that definitely diverges a bit from the Dark Souls tried and true mechanics and formula, because, you know, it plays a lot like, you know, I haven't played it, but I've seen a lot of it, and you guys have been talking about it. I want you guys to talk more than I on this, but it is a lot like Dark Souls, but in a lot of ways it isn't. And it's like very refreshing how they've kind of diverged off into like more of an action game, like a stealth action game than Dark Souls was. But what do you guys think? Like, are you guys enjoying this kind of divergence from the Dark Souls formula? Are you kind of like loving the new like grapple mechanics and stuff like that's new to the game? What do you guys think?
I think it's definitely a nice change of pace. Not, you know, having to roll all over the place, kind of like in Dark Souls. Have to think, you know, with your blocking and stuff. Than more of your B button. But it's nice having like some of the items transferred over from Dark Souls, but renamed obviously. They did that really well. So, you know, Dark Souls players still kind of have a home and they know things here, but obviously their names some different, but I refuse to call them. So like the gourd is like your Estus flask in Dark Souls, right? But I refuse to call it the gourd or whatever. You know, things like that. I refuse to call what they're actually in the game.
Wait, so hold on. Let me get this straight really quick. You're playing with your buddies in the chat or whatever, or you're playing and you're talking to your friends about it, and you're calling those things Estus Flask still?
Yeah, like...
Oh, come on.
So, like, the bonfires in Dark Souls are statues. I forget what they're called, but I'm like, did you get to this bonfire? And they're like, what? And when I'm playing Dark Souls, I'm like, bonfire.
Stop
Did you get that? Or did you get your Estus Flask shard or your Bone Dust ability, you know? Or, you know, if you get stuck in an area, there's a Homeward Idol or whatever, I think it's called. I just call it a Homeward Bone because that's what's in Dark Souls. And I mean, it's just easier saying that, right? Because I've been playing Dark Souls for a very long time, at least now.
Right.
At least a few years, at least.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, it's just easier to call them Dark Souls stuff than it is to relearn everything. But it is hard to go back to Dark Souls after you played Sekiro, because I will constantly push the left bumper to block and realizing you need a roll, and I'll keep on hitting up on the D-pad, which that switches like magic and stuff, and that's not healing.
Yeah.
So I'll die a lot more, not realizing, you know, it's the X button.
Dude, it's funny that you say that about the controls, because this kind of goes back to the PAX topic really quick, but we'll get right back to Sekiro in a second. Tiny Build Studios is publishing. They had a huge booth. They're the guys that make that publish Party Hard and Speedrunners and oh my god, I'm blanking on the name. Oh, Hello Neighbor. If you ever heard of that game or played it, they're the guys who publish that, and they're also publishing this game called Hellpoint, I believe it is. Jizzle, correct me in the chat because I know Jizzle backed it. And it's a lot like Dark Souls, but there's a few new mechanics like jump attacking and stuff like that. The demo was kind of limited, but it was a good proof of concept for those devs, and you know, it was actually pretty good. There was like split screen multiplayer, which was kind of cool. So me and Jizzle played split screen multiplayer, which actually was a lot of fun. But I'm going into it and I'm doing, in the controls are the exact same as Dark Souls. So I'm like, it's, comboing my heavy and light attacks and like rolling and blocking and stuff like that using the shoulder buttons. And Jizzle's just like, dude, how do you know how to do all this stuff? These controls are so wacky. Like he could not like put two and two together to make those shoulder buttons be what they were. He expected like the face buttons to be attacks or whatever. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of a diverging point, but I just wanted to bring that story up because I thought it was funny that like with these games, it kind of just goes to the theme that people expect games like this to have a lot of the same controls and to be so similar, even down to like the exact button pushes. But with Sekiro, you're saying that there's a lot of changes in that?
Well, I mean, there's some of the same, like B has always been to sprint and stuff, but like the jumping, I think you had to like double tap B in Dark Souls. There's an actual jump button in this game, which threw me off for a while. Up on the D-pads to heal, while it's X in Dark Souls, and left bumpers to block. Well, yes, it could be in Dark Souls if you had a shield, but you rely more on the rolling. Than blocking with the katana. Right. So it threw me off for a while. Plus, like the play style of Sekiro versus Dark Souls, like you can't constantly hit B. Like sometimes you can get away with that, but most of the time you cannot.
Yeah, for me, I'm way more interested in the play style of Sekiro than I would be in Dark Souls. Like I hate the fact that when I watch those games. When people play those games that are really good at them, like they're just constantly rolling. I hate that. That's like the main, mechanic. That's kind of like, it's not like cheesing necessarily, but it's like it's such a dependent mechanic on the game. It's like it lets people kind of avoid some of the tactics that would be cool for taking down like bosses and stuff, but instead they'll just like go right up next to the boss, attack them, and like abuse the rolling so that they can like dodge attacks that even look like they may even hit the person. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But with Sekiro, like I do love watching, especially you've been streaming a ton. I've been watching a couple other people play it to see if I'm interested in buying it. I love the ability of like running away and like grappling up high and like the rafters of a building and hiding and like striking from above and stuff like that. I think that's so cool. That's what it really drew me in at the E3 demo as well. That I thought that the game looked better than Ghost of Tsushima, because like I thought Sekiro just showed so much more like tactically and so much more like I don't know, like the play style was just so polished, I felt, and I'm glad to see that the game is kind of like stuck to that feel and is just taking something so popular like Dark Souls and just taking it to a whole new level, which really I think that From Software honestly should just like continue this. Like if there's another Dark Souls, like I hope that they kind of take a page out of this book and don't just revert to the old school,
Well, I think both the play styles have a place, right? Like the rolling versus like the blocking and jumping left and right and stuff. I think both of them have a home. I know, like, because we were constantly like we had Demon Souls and then we had 3 Dark Souls and we had Bloodborne. Like they all had that same mechanic. Bloodborne a little bit different, but it's just nice change of pace, and then having like their next game or whatever go back to those Demon Souls and Dark Souls and stuff would I think would be nice too.
See, the problem with you is that you're still calling the stuff the same Dark Souls stuff, so you're like a Dark Souls fanboy through and through. You don't want to see that go away.
No, I think the combat that they made with Sekiro is good. It makes the game easy other than the boss fights.
Oh, you best not be throwing that word around here, because that's going to trigger a lot of people that have been calling for that easy mode, man. You're going to trigger a lot of people.
The boss fights are definitely hard, but I mean, you just got to use your brain. Like, I know I'm stuck at the last boss right now, and I mean, you just got to learn the moves. Like,
wow.
And sometimes you learn some cheese strats.
Here comes,
there's a few mini bosses that you can absolutely cheese.
Here comes Clownz, because Clownz has been struggling. So here comes Clownz and that easy talk that you just brought up.
You know, Assassin, listen. If your left bumper doesn't work on the controller, you're not gonna do well on
most
Sekiro.
Probably 95% of the people who are playing this game actually have a working left bumper.
Well, on the flip side, let's get into this easy talk, because this is where I wanted to go. First off, I do like Sekiro. Second off, I think it's really smooth. The frame rate is amazing. I mean, after playing Sekiro, we went to try Division 2. We couldn't even play that because it lagged so much with the frames. But there's one thing. It's this easy mode, okay? I think a lot of people are just throwing the term around incorrectly, because they think or assume that journalists are the ones that want the easy mode to play through the game, or that they're trying to be like social justice warriors on the easy mode. But I think there's a real purpose for an easier mode. It doesn't have to be necessarily easy mode. But for example, I think it could help people with disabilities that are trying to play the game, people that, you know, have problems with various nerve damages in both arms maybe, or they have some type of inflammatory condition where they can't move their wrist properly. I know they have the adaptive controller and the accessibility stuff, but I think, like, for example, somebody with disability could take advantage of an easier mode, because maybe they won't have to repetitively hit a button so many times, and it might not flare up their condition. Like, it may make the boss fights a little bit easier for them. It doesn't mean that you have to play in easy mode. Like me and you, Assassin, probably wouldn't play the easy mode unless we really, really, really had to. But I think there's a lot of people out there that could take advantage of it.
Yeah, but I think an easy mode for a From Software game, while I agree that people, like you said, with people with disabilities, maybe they can't do stuff like, you know, they need some kind of help or whatever. I mean, that's a good point, but the game is supposed to be difficult. The game, you know, you're supposed to die. That dying is actually a part of the story. They go into that a lot.
Well, if, for example, right, if somebody had, let's say, like, I don't know, maybe like I'm trying to think of a condition that might be really disabling for playing this game. Maybe like a severe case of MS, right, like stage 3, like, it's hard to, like, move anything, right? So they want to play the game because maybe they play a few games here and there and they want to get to experience it. Do you think that lessening the amount of times that they have to hit a button could help them? Like, maybe make the boss like 5 hits for them so they get to the end of the game.
Well, I mean, I think that there should be some better adaptive and cheaper adaptive controllers for the people to do certain things. I mean, just making the game, I think, harder or easier, people are going to abuse that. Even some Joe Schmo who's like, "Oh, this game's too hard." Like, you're losing a part of what the game should be.
Well, even in that case, right? If people were to use the easy mode, why should that bother somebody that wants to play it on hard mode? Like, I mean, there shouldn't be gatekeepers, right? Shouldn't we be all open to other people being able to try the game in their means? Or like, maybe somebody with extreme anger disorders or severe PTSD, if they play the game, they keep dying and they start smashing stuff at their house, right? I mean, those disorders can cause that. I mean, maybe they shouldn't play the game necessarily, but if they had a way to play it and be able to beat it without hurting somebody, isn't that a good option?
I think that they should throw a thing at the beginning of the game, like Ubisoft does with every single game, saying consult your doctor. And I think the only way they should have an easy mode is if you plug in an adaptive controller or something.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was kind of thinking that myself, but then Clownz just brought up what he brought up, and then I was like, oh shit, that doesn't count for that. But like, what if they did have, for the adaptive controller, a way for the console to recognize that input is what's selected, and then they made it a little bit easier for the button input specifically, maybe not for, like, you know, curbing like anger management problems or whatever, but maybe you know, for at least for the disability, for the physical disabilities thing that you're talking about, Clownz, what if maybe like games could have a way to open that up a little bit if you plugged in a controller like that? I mean, yeah, it forces people to use that controller, but at the same time, you know, maybe that will make gaming more enjoyable enough for people to shell out the money for the adaptive controller. Or like Assassin says, maybe they should release also a lower version of that makes it more approachable too. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think Assassin has a key point here. If they can make a controller, an elite controller with repetitive automation on it that is a lot cheaper and a lot lighter for somebody with disability to be able to hold, I think that would be fantastic. I think that's a great option. Maybe even plugging in that controller, recognize, hey, this is accessibility controller. How can we help this individual out with our particular game? Put some options in there. I think he's 100% correct. I think that would benefit many, many people.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, Assassin. Sorry, bud.
And then you talk about people with anger management. Like, any game could make them rage. You could put easy mode, peaceful mode on Minecraft, right? Super simple. You fall in lava, throws a controller, hits a bird. I don't know. I mean, any game can piss anyone off. It could be. I downloaded the coloring book for the Nintendo Switch. If I drew outside the line, I'd be pissed off. Like, any game can give you, you know what I'm saying? So any game can just piss you off. I mean, this game might piss you off more. I mean, I've raged at Sekiro many times.
Yeah.
But I mean,
well, also, you know, and this is where I think it gets harder for these kind of games, is that there's a percentage of the population out there that might have like bipolar disorder, or they might have like schizophrenia too. And I would imagine that this type of game could aggravate their condition emotionally. So I think even trying to reach out and help individuals like that, even if they only represent, 5% of the game population or whatever percentage it is, I think it's a benefit. I think if everybody can play, we can all win. And Assassin, for guys like you who like to play it on difficult, they can make achievements based on difficulty as well.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you'll get special achievements to show, hey, this dude beat it on the hardest mode possible.
Yeah. But not every game is made for every single person, right? Like, everyone should be able to try everything, but like, Apex Legends, like, I have a difficulty time with colorblind. Like, I'm not going to go back to that game. And I mean, sometimes that happens. It's unfortunate.
Well, it
happens.
In the end, though, it kind of sucks, though, right? Because Inferno and I like Apex, and we would love to play that game with you, and you were enjoying it until the color blindness really became an issue with that game. So if they could fix that, would you not enjoy that game?
I mean, it depends on how they do. But, I mean, I can also bring up Mortal Kombat or any fighting game. I just cannot play that, not with the nerve condition in my entire arm. I mean, I don't really would care if I played it. It's just not my type of game. And sometimes Dark Souls, Sekiro, whatever games are not just made for everyone. And while it does suck, but
what about Rock Band Guitar Hero? If they can make it easier on your condition, right? That maybe they found a way to remap it better for you.
The only way that they would make it any way better is literally the drum set or play it on a controller. But you're not playing Rock Band or Guitar Hero with a controller. That just beats the purpose.
If it worked for you, would you do it?
No.
So you would just completely ignore those games?
I would find a more reliable and better music game. There's quite a few good ones out there. For instance, Beat Saber or Crypto the Necrodancer or some others that I can't think of at the moment.
All right, let's That was a good topic though. That was a good discussion on that, because I think when it comes to this easy mode this difficulty controversy thing that's going on Twitter right now about the game, I think it sucks because it's like marring the game, because the game is like really, really good. Obviously, we've been talking about that and what makes it great, and it's from a reputable, consistently great game producing studio. So it sucks that it mars that, but also, like, the discussion that we just had about this is not the discussion that a lot of people are having. They're just having the fact that, it should be easier so that people can play it, so they don't, like, get pissed off, and that they don't, so that they can get past, like, the first boss or whatever. Like, that's the discussion a lot of people are having. No one's considering, or not people that I at least follow, are considering the whole disabilities issue, that are considering the approachability issue for a lot of people that could potentially play this, but the developers just don't cater to them. And that's the thing we're seeing in the chat right now about catering. Like, a lot of people, Crazy Greek Dude, I see you in there, Shizno Elite, I see you in there, talking about it being the developer's choice. And I agree that it's definitely the developer's choice 100%. If they want to if they want to make a hard mode, or make an easy mode, and then they should do it. If they don't, they don't. But that they risk not selling it or getting bad press about it, and it's their risk. But at the same time, like, it is their vision. So, and if they feel that their vision has to be achieved through making it be a difficult game, then it is their medium to express their creativity and their vision. I mean, who are we to tell them they shouldn't be expressing their vision, right? But when it comes to accessibility, that's a whole different story. And Crazy Greek Dude also agrees on that in the chat. He says accessibility and easy are two different things. Colorblind mode does not equate to easy mode. That can be implemented, and yet Apex stays the same. See, that's what it is. I mean, it's the accessibility is a big issue on this, and I think, like, the easy mode thing, like, I agree with Assassin.
Here's the thing. If you're not going to take advantage of it, then why would it bother you? Like, why should it bother you? Mm-hmm. If somebody wears a blue shirt and you don't like the color blue, why should it bother you?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's not you, right? So, I mean, it's not you taking advantage of it, so it shouldn't bother you at all. There's no need to be a gatekeeper, and being a gatekeeper is toxic in general.
Yep.
It's like telling people what they can and can't do, and that's just wrong. That condemns the free market in general. Now, on the other hand, do devs have to do this? Absolutely not. It's not required by law. It's not a requirement whatsoever. But it would just be more inclusive for their fan base and get more fans into a series.
Mm-hmm.
It's a benefit to the devs, but they don't have to go back and do it.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, our opinions are not really going to matter, because it's going to be up to them if they feel like putting that work in to do it. Because I'm sure there's some work they got to put in, recode stuff and do things like that. But I'll give you a good example recently what Capcom did with the Disney Afternoon Collection. I've seen a lot of people go back and play that, right? And I've seen a lot of people say, oh, man, I'm so glad there's a rewind option now, because when I came back out on Nintendo, I could never beat it.
You're right.
So, I mean, that right there in itself, the rewind option, that's an accessibility thing.
Yep, that is. Yeah, that's a good implementation of accessibility mode. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. And that, I mean, who knows how simple that is to do? I mean, it could be, in a game like this, it could be pretty difficult to do that, versus, like, 2D side scrollers. I mean, Forza did it, for Christ's sake. I mean, like, the games of that quality and that depth and variability, even like on Horizon games, not just on track racers, but on open world racers, they have rewind. So if those guys have figured it out, maybe companies like this can figure that out and throw that in as an easy accessibility way. But like Crazy Greek Dude said in the chat, like, people will just abuse that. And like Assassin was kind of saying today too on this show, is that, there's a lot of people who don't really need that will just abuse it,
But see, I mean, and this is the conversation here, but who cares if they do? Why should you care?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? So Dark Souls, it has PvP, right? An arena, you can get invaded. If someone has easy mode and you're on normal mode, and let's just say their Estus is better than yours, they have more campfire or bonfires, or their swords hit more, like, that's added buffs that you don't have.
Yeah, but they wouldn't allow matchmaking like that. They could block that.
Well, okay, so then if you have an easy mode queue, you have a hard mode queue, or normal, like that just splits up the entire community.
Yeah.
And less people can play with each other, or the other way around.
Yeah, but should that really matter? Because there's tons of people that play that game in offline mode as it is.
Yeah, but if so I don't know how many people are playing Dark Souls 3, but let's just say, 3/4 of them are playing on easy mode, and then normal people are on normal mode. Like that's like a huge chunk of the player base that you can't even do anything with. Like that could be longer matchmaking times. The matchmaking can be long. They already say that matchmaking is going to be long on the game, and it ruins the player base. It will just kill them off.
They could essentially just say, if you're going to play easy mode, or let's say accessibility mode, it's disabled from matchmaking. Right. I mean, they could do that, right?
Right.
Yeah, but that's a portion of the game gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then if those people want to go into PvP mode, they could start one on normal difficulty or hard difficulty or whatever.
Yeah, but if they don't want to play on normal difficulty because it's too hard, in quotes, then
yeah, but see,
then they're losing a chunk of the game.
I think you're missing the point though on this one, Assassin, because the people that would be playing easy mode, let's say, they wouldn't even be playing in PvP in general. So there's no easy mode now, right?
You in PvP. You get invaded all the time.
That's if you have the stuff on. You're not in offline mode. You're wearing the right rings.
Well, so if you wanted, if you're in easy mode, right, Clownz, and I wanted to play with you, I'm in easy mode. Like, we're gonna have to be forced online, yeah. And not everyone's gonna force themselves offline.
Well, see, that's different than PvP. You're playing co-op.
Yeah, but you're still gonna get invaded. I was playing co-op with Yeti and you guys, or Joe, and I was constantly getting invaded every 2 seconds.
But people on easy mode, they wouldn't be able to. They could disable PvP in general.
But then that's taking a portion of the game out.
Those people aren't even playing the game right now. So how is that taking down a portion?
They could be playing the game. You don't know.
I don't think so.
There's probably like a 5-year-old playing Plants vs. Zombies. I mean, if they had an easy mode, like.
All right, this is going off the rails, but I see the, and I think Crazy Greek dude in the chat makes a good point, is that like it's easy to see both sides of this argument. Like, and by easy I mean like understandable, but the people on like the extremes of both ends are really like ruining the fact that this game is a 92% on Metacritic and a must play, and that, everyone should definitely, like, if you're even mildly interested, should check this game out no matter how difficult it is. Like, if you're gonna rage at it, you think it's too difficult for you, like, it's not for you then. Like, go rent it. You know what I mean? If you're afraid it's gonna be too difficult for you, you just go rent it, because that's how you determine whether it's too difficult for you, right? And then you can buy it or whatever. But like, it sucks that a controversy like this is like taking over, and we're guilty of it as well on this podcast. It's like taking over the discussions of this game because of like the difficulty saga. And it's like, I know, Assassin, you've been streaming the hell out of it, and I don't think you've talked about the difficulty saga like at all on your streams. But like, I feel like a lot of people I watch on Twitch or whatever who play this, they bring it up somehow. Like, it's always brought up on a lot of these streams, and it's kind of just like, man, like, I hope this dies down so we could actually talk about the game and talk about like, the bosses, and talk about, what may be coming in the future of the game, because I'm really excited to see what's coming, and I'm really excited to see like them kind of get away from the old school Dark Souls. I know, Assassin, you're a Dark Souls fanboy, but I think that this is way more fun and approachable and not so much like dodge rolly, but that's just me on that. All right, let's move on. In the interest of time, let's talk about Borderlands, right? So at PAX East, they had the Borderlands press conference. Essentially, I know they announced other stuff during the Gearbox presser, but Borderlands was really the highlight of the show, right? So both the Borderlands Game of the Year edition and Borderlands 3. We'll get into Borderlands Game of the Year edition first. So I know you guys are excited for it. You guys got it. I just bought it earlier today. I'm excited to play it after this podcast. Even though I don't really like the original Borderlands, I will play it for you guys. And if it were just me playing it in solo, I definitely wouldn't have bought it. But it's cool that they're bringing it back. They've updated 4K HDR. They've added a lot of the modern features that I couldn't stand about the original Borderlands. Like, thank God they're bringing that mini map, because the way that you had the reticle, not the reticle, the guide on the top there, oh my God, in the old games, terrible. And also they've made a few adjustments. They've added some guns. They've made adjustments to the inventory system, which was terrible. They've made adjustments to customizing your character. They made adjustments to some of the bosses, believe it or not, are a little bit different because the community feedback said that they were boring bosses to play against. I don't know exactly which ones right off the top of my head, but they did make adjustments to that. So, kudos to Gearbox to bring this back and get people hyped again for Borderlands and give the whole, it's not really a trilogy, but kind of is, right? I mean, Borderlands 1, Borderlands 2, the pre-sequel, if you consider it part of that same lineage, which I guess it is, and then, Borderlands 3 coming out later this year. But what do you guys think about this? I mean, I know did you guys try it already? Are you guys, really excited to play through the whole thing? It comes with all the DLC as well.
So we played some Borderlands this morning, and it is very smooth. The 60 FPS or whatever that they put in the game.
Too. Yep, that too. Yep.
It is very smooth. I think it might even be a little bit harder to go back to the other games with the frame rate difference.
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean? The other games have the same frame rate. What are you talking about?
I thought it was 30 on Borderlands 2.
No, on the Anthem collection?
Oh, is it 60?
No, it's 60, dude. Yeah, no,
wow,
it's 60.
It's been a while.
No, but in fairness, when the Anthem collection came out, the frame rates were not very stable. It was 60, but it wasn't very stable, especially in the pre-sequel. Yikes, dude. If you guys remember the pre-sequel, that frame rate was not very good. But you're saying Borderlands 1, the Game of the Year edition that just came out yesterday, is extremely smooth?
Yeah, it's very smooth. Very. It looks good. I know it's a 10-year-old game at this point, or something along that lines. It looks a lot better than the 360 version for sure. Man,
I'm excited to check it out then. I'm more excited for the visuals than the actual gameplay, because I think the first one is not very good. I kind of agree with JGoKukin, great guy in the chat, saying Snorterlands when it comes to the first game. I thought it was a slog to get through it, and I think Borderlands 2 is vastly superior, but at the same time, they did make some improvements, and it's 4-player co-op, and you guys got it. So, and I know a lot of other people that bought it, or got it from the PAX event. So, we'll see. We'll see how I like it. But the improvements in and of themselves really prove to me that Gearbox is all in on Borderlands again, and that Battleborn, that was a little of experiment, I should say, that didn't go too well for them, needless to say, even though Battleborn I thought was a decently good game. And they've had some other projects that have kind of fizzled out and didn't really matriculate. But Borderlands is their pride. Borderlands is the future, and we'll have to get into Borderlands 3 specifically in a minute, but for Borderlands 1, the stuff they talked about I thought was kind of promising. Clownz, so what do you think, man? Have you tried it out yet?
Yeah, I think it's very smooth. It's great. There's no connection issues like we had initially with the first one when we tried the back and pat. Everything's just running smooth the way it's supposed to. And the music, listening to that music again really made Assassin smile for the first time in his life. I'll tell you that much. I didn't
smile. It's definitely during one music scene where it sounds like the music's going moo. I'll get the clip.
What are you talking about, dude?
But there's one part where it sounds like someone just mooing. I'm like, what is this garbage?
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. I'm not really sure what you're talking about, but I will. I'll have to check it out. Jesus. Yeah, let me see if I can roll. I think I have a clip here to to roll, but it's not working for me for some reason. Man, I'm a mess right now on this. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's get that going right now. So, you know, like it or not, I mean, for $30, there is a lot of stuff to play in this game, right? I mean, it comes with all the DLC. Like, are you guys planning on running through all the DLC on this? Like, are we gonna be able to get through it all before
let's
September?
do the whole game.
Oh man,
let's do everything.
Oh man, Assassin, is that your plan too? All the DLC, the whole deal?
I plan on it, but I don't know if you guys remember the Mad Moxie's
Yes.
whatever DLC.
Oh, do I remember
There was
that?
an achievement to do like the longest whatever, and I just remember doing it on the 360 and it took like 3 hours to do one of them.
Oh, ask the Jizzle about that. We got a good story about that I don't think we can get to right now, but let's just say that, without specifics, there was a lot of rage on those DLCs, especially the Mad Moxie one, man. But I mean, that's the thing about the Borderlands DLCs too, is that they're so wildly different. Like, some are just like, you know, straight up campaign missions and stuff, and some are just like Mad Moxies, where it's kind of like arena, right? I mean, is that the way to describe it? I don't know if that's the way to describe it. It's kind of like you dropped into an arena. It's like waves and waves and waves. You see some bosses from the old missions from the original game that you have to like fight against again, stuff like that. Yeah, the Jizzle was absolutely going ape shit for that one. It was pretty absurd. What else is there to say about Borderlands? You guys got anything else on it, or?
Well,
maybe Jizzle needs a easy mode for that.
Man, probably he does. Oh man, what were you saying, Assassin?
Clownz and I did run into a problem earlier. His power went out, and he got disconnected, and he came back. We were playing the game entirely in co-op, and he accidentally left or whatever. I didn't do anything, and when he came back, he was behind me in story.
What?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know if, let's say, for example, like, I think what happened was this. I think we turned in a quest, and after we turned in the quest sometime as we're going to another one, my power cut out. And I think when I came back, it didn't save the fact that we turned in the quest, because it wanted me to talk to that Baja guy again with the like flower shirt. So I think it had something to do with that. So the game could probably use like a better save automation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that's a relic from the old game. I feel like that wasn't a huge problem in Borderlands 2. Maybe that's never happened to me or anyone I've played with, but I feel like it was a little bit better in the first game, but maybe not. In the second game, maybe I'm wrong though. Borderlands, Diego Kukin says Borderlands needs a make me want to play it mode. Wow, jeez. Well, I felt the same way as you when it was announced, honestly. I was like, dude, do I want to go back to the original Borderlands? You know? Dude, what was the name of that boss at the... I mean, I don't want to... No spoilers, sorry. But what was the name of that boss at the end that you just, like, would constantly farm for, like, good items?
I think I know who you're talking about. It was big, right?
Yeah,
like, really
dude. Oh, my God. With, like, you know, not to encourage this, but with, like, the modded weapons, I'd play with some people that would, like, one-shot the thing, dude.
Yeah, when I first got the Borderlands, I think it was on PS3 at the time, I joined a guy, and he gave me a gun that I could sell. It gave me infinite money, and then he gave me another gun which would just one-shot everything.
Sounds like Clownz.
What? I don't know anything about this stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't. Oh man, so many good times in Borderlands. I will admit that Borderlands 1, there were a lot of good times, but I just think the first game is so bad compared to the second game. I mean,
it's definitely slower.
Oh my God, the first few sections are so slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, they brought a few of the things from that have worked in the later Borderlands games to this one. So, but But Crazy Greek Dude wants to know, how do you guys feel about collector's editions being exclusive to certain stores? Sekiro and Borderlands 3 specifically. So that'll be our transition into Borderlands 3. Let's answer that. I think that that's kind of BS, but at the same point, they do. I mean, it is a way to encourage people to shop at their store. I think it's competitive. It's competition at its finest. Competition marketing. I think it's fine, but it sucks because a lot of people don't have certain stores around them that may have those collector's editions, and some of them, like, you can't really order them online or else you get stuck. And some people don't want to order stuff online, that as well. But at the same time, like, I mean, it's kind of like the exclusive DLC for certain consoles, right? I mean, that's competition at its finest. That's competition marketing. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Do you guys have a problem with that, or what do you guys think?
It sucks when a game is exclusive to only one platform or whatever. But with it being on PC, I feel like it shouldn't be much of a discussion because you can just get the store launcher or whatever, or Steam.
Yep.
But if it was like, only on PS4 or whatever, then I feel like that would suck more, because if you're on PC or Xbox, you can't then play it. As for the collector's editions, I mean, while it sucks, I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen it.
Right.
And you could still get it off of their, I think it's like Borderlands.com or something too. So yeah, there's still other ways.
Yeah, I mean, for this specific game, for Borderlands, I think there are going to be other ways. I mean, there are some games that just will never offer them in other retailers, and that kind of sucks. And Crazy Greek Dude says in the chat, it's kept them from buying collector's editions. I mean, some people just don't want to do business with the GameStops of the world that seem to be dying, or some people, like Clownz, don't really like Best Buy, So people have their preferences and don't want to do business with certain companies, and they could miss out on some collector's editions if they don't want to do that. So, I mean, it sucks for those people, but at the same time, it is smart, competitive marketing. And,
I mean, at the end of the day, it's good old American capitalism. It's the free market.
That's right.
Now, it's just the way the world works, unfortunately. I think it kind of sucks for some people if there's specific things they wanted. Because it does force you to a particular retailer. Mm-hmm. As far as the Epic launcher, Randy went ahead and said that it's really 2K's fault, the publisher that made the deals, as far as that's concerned. But I don't like the Epic launcher. I don't like Tencent. I don't like having a majority Chinese company in the background. It just bothers me. Mm-hmm. I don't trust it. So that's the only reason why I don't like it being on the Epic Store. Other than that, like Assassin said, it's PC, so why is it a big deal?
Yeah, just download the app. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, because a lot of people are fearful. I mean, nothing against like Chinese people in general, but there are some companies that have been proven to do like some pretty shady shit, and it's not necessarily representative like everyone there, but I mean, it's, a lot of these, like, for instance, like Huawei, right, has been like banned from the US essentially because the US has some intelligence that they've been that they believe is being like hacked through their phones or whatever. And if they who says that that's not just pettiness, but at the same time, like, it does strike fear into some people. So I mean, at least here in the US, I mean, from people from other regions who are listening, you may have different thoughts on this kind of stuff, but for us in the US, I mean, there's a lot of like fear mongering a little bit on stuff like this, so it's difficult for some people. But at the same time, like, Epic Store, you don't want to have a million stores. Well, you're gonna miss out on some really good games if you don't want to do that, so you probably should get over that. Because
they do a lot of great freebie stuff right now on the Epic Store too. So
yeah, definitely. There's definitely incentives to download it, and it's not just for the devs and publishers getting a higher cut. It's definitely consumer facing as well. There's definitely, like you said, Jackbox Party Pack was free. I grabbed that. I thought that was a great offer. You know, they're incentivizing people to get in, and maybe that won't continue in the future, but for now, I mean, they're competing. It's like the kid it's like the only child who has divorced parents. Like at the get-go, the parents are gonna you know, compete for your love, right? I mean, and so it's kind of similar in that way, that they're kind of like competing for you to switch over, but then when you finally do, maybe it's not quite as and then Steam will then be like, oh, well, then we've got deals on this, and then Epic will counter that. So it's, you know, they're just doing this from the get-go, and we'll see the viability of it. But all right, let's move over to Borderlands 3. So a lot of controversy around this because people are saying that it looks like more of the same, but I mean, it's called Borderlands 3 for a reason, right? Shouldn't it be more of the same? Like, what is what is the problem, in my opinion? So the PC version, like we kind of already got into, it's to Epic Game Store for the first 6 months only, and then it will be after that, but it's exclusive for the first 6 months. And there are 3 versions of the game, $60, $80, $100, pretty standard stuff there, I would say. And it leaked and then confirmed by Gearbox coming on September 13, 2019. So that's right around the corner, way sooner than I thought it would be, for sure. So what did you guys think of that one? I mean, were you kind of shocked about the release date? Were you impressed with what you saw in the trailer, which we're going to air in just a second here? Do you agree with people that it's too much more of the same, or what do you guys think on that?
Well, people were thinking it's too much like Borderlands. I mean, were you expecting like Dark Souls, but with Borderlands graphics, like, or Pong, or, you know, Pac-Man or something? Because, I mean, Borderlands 3 looks like Borderlands, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Clownz, what were you going to say, bud?
Yeah, I think the same thing, like Assassin said. People want a Borderlands game, and they're giving us Borderlands 3, which is a Borderlands game. So why complain? It is what it's supposed to be. They don't need to upgrade all these mechanics or make everything look different. I mean, if they change the style of the game, fans would be upset because they love the humor and the style of the game as it stands from Borderlands 2. So why complain about it being the same?
Yeah, I mean, why have people been clamoring for Borderlands 3 for so long? Like, how many times have we seen, you know, since as early as like 2016, right? How many times have we seen like, oh, Borderlands 3 rumored to release, you know, everyone's like, oh, is it Borderlands 3? Are they going to announce Borderlands 3? When is Borderlands 3 coming? They've been asking, you know, Randy Pitchford and guys at Gearbox for ages about that. Same thing with like Half-Life 3, right? Everyone's like, oh, when's Half-Life 3 coming? Oh, Half-Life 3. They're not hoping for Half-Life 3 to be completely different than Half-Life 2. They want it to be the same. Like, that's the whole point. It's crazy, but it's crazy that there's controversy over this. I know some news outlets that I no longer follow made stories about this, and I don't want to give them any press, but there are people that made stories about the trailer not doing enough, you know, being too similar to the old stuff. It's like, are you really making a story about that? Are you just clickbaiting or trying to get clicks? Because it's a sequel. Like, it's supposed to be the same, and you want to complain about the graphics? I mean, the lighting is completely updated. I think it's supposed to be cel shaded. Like, what are you complaining about? You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, and we don't know everything. Like, they just showed us the 2 main bad guys, our new characters, some of the stuff that we've seen in the past, like, you know, the psychos and stuff. Like, we don't even know gameplay. If it's literally the same gameplay wise, I think then we can complain a little bit, but, you know, we don't know until, what is it, May 1st? So
Chief Tommy wants to know, are they seriously complaining about the art style? I'm not complaining about the art style at all. People that are bitching about it looking the same are definitely complaining about the art style. The art style should stay the same. If they change the art style in the game, there would be 10 more articles for every one there is now about how Borderlands 3 has ruined the game because the art style has changed. It's got to be the same. It's got to be the same. Shizno Elite says, should have made third person over the shoulder photorealistic game. I saw that before he retracted it. Nice. Oh man, brutal. But I did like what I saw. I thought the new characters look really cool. I liked, the tandem of main bosses. I think the Calypso twins or whatever they're called. I think that they look as cool as Handsome Jack. I'm very excited to find out more of what they stand for and why they are the villains and what kind of powers they have and what makes them, equally as vilified, if you will, as Handsome Jack. Because Handsome Jack was a cool character, and we got a lot of information about why he was, the main antagonist of Borderlands 2. And that's the kind of thing that Borderlands 1, I think, was really missing. That kind of makes it a little boring, is it didn't have really a cool main boss that was really personified through the whole game and really the person who you were going against the entire game. The first game is kind of like, oh, you're a vault hunter, go find the vault or whatever, right? In the second game, there was a villain that was ever present and you're constantly thinking about them, and it's really your end goal. And yeah, there are side quests and finding the vault, quote unquote, really becomes kind of secondary almost to the fact that you're trying to take down Handsome Jack. And I liked that about Borderlands 2, and I think they're continuing that with the twins in this game. And I think it's cool. I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
I just hope they have a lot of Easter eggs in Borderlands 3. I know Borderlands 2 had a lot of them.
Yeah.
There was a few in Borderlands 1, especially the first few seconds in the game with the whole the gate not opening all the way and Claptrap hitting them was based on from Star Wars. But I just hope we see more.
Yeah. No, I think we will. I think Gearbox is kind of settled into a rhythm here. I think Borderlands 1 was kind of a foray into this, they don't want to call it a looter shooter, but it was the first really popular looter shooter kind of mechanic, more RPG-ish than a lot of looter shooters these days, I think. More, and there's a lot more options too. The guns are so widely varied. You're constantly seeing, they have different, if you haven't played a Borderlands game before, which you probably have, but if you haven't, it just said in the screen 1 billion guns, and that's because there's different manufacturers of guns that have different ammo styles. Even though they're still machine guns or they're still SMGs, they have different ammo styles, different looks, different attributes, different special powers, stuff like that. There's just a lot going on that is just a huge value add to a game like this, and that's really missing a lot today. So, and
we now have guns with legs.
Yeah. I wonder when guns with legs came up in the cycle for this game. When they're sitting around this round table thinking, oh, what do we need to bring to Borderlands 3 to really separate it from Borderlands 2 and make it feel fresh? I wonder when guns with legs came up.
I don't know, but I hope they bring back the gun from, I think it was Borderlands 2, when you shot it make a really annoying noise like someone screaming.
Oh my god!
And you dual wield those things.
Yeah.
I hope they have that one, but with legs.
Oh my god, yeah. And you can hear it walking away from you, you put it down, it runs away or whatever, and you see it.
Yeah.
It's just it gets quiet. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be cool. Clownz, what were you gonna say about?
No, I'm just saying the guns with legs is pretty cool. I think it's something to add. They added something to the game, right? That's a new mechanic.
Yep.
No.
Yep. So, so if you're watching the show, and you're a huge fan of Borderlands, let us know why you're into either the Game of the Year edition or you're into Borderlands 3. Which one interests you more? Are you going to return to the old game? Are you not? Are you going to grab Borderlands 3 on day one? I see some people in the chat saying they are. I think that the press conference, if you want to call it that, at PAX was very well received. I think that, I kind of regret it for missing it, but at the same time, I didn't want to get away from the gaming. The show floor was a lot deader when that was going on Thursday, so I got to be able to play a lot of cool games that I may not have if I didn't stay down on the show floor, because a lot of people did make their way up to that Gearbox event, and for good reason too, because they got a game for free, and they got those cool hats, masks, I should say, the iconic Borderlands masks there that are going on eBay for like $90 right now, by the way. Of course.
Oh, one thing I want to say that really bothered me, right, about the Borderlands showing at PAX, that magic trick stuff, I think it was staged, and I know Jizzle's probably going to say, of course it was, dude, but honestly, I think because there's a lot of signs there. First off, the card that was signed was the first card in Darshell's hand.
Yes.
And in case you guys don't know who that was, Darshell is a model for Filthy Casual.
Yep.
And I think her boyfriend is like the photographer or like something to do with promotion. So I just find it kind of shameful that those people were kind of selected.
Yeah.
When it's supposed to be for the fans, it's just, that was kind of stupid.
Yeah, I mean, the show had a lot of fumbles, and if it wasn't Borderlands, like, that would be... If it wasn't that they were showing Borderlands, that would be like the talk of it. There'd be so many videos about that, and everyone would be talking about how there were just a lot of weird things going on with that show that made it like really cringeworthy in a lot of aspects. But if you want to see what Clownz is talking about, please do go see a PAX recap of the Gearbox stream, because I know they're out there on YouTube. Don't have one ready to show off and to show that specific point or anything like that, but you should definitely go watch it, because if you're into cringeworthy stuff, I'm definitely into some cringeworthy stuff every once in a while. I do check my cringe subreddit from time to time to see some cringy videos. You will definitely love to see some of that, and you'll have the same assessment as Clownz, is that the magic stuff was a little rigged, and it just felt so like staged in some spots. It was just crazy.
So yeah, Darshell Stevens is a photographer at Filthy Casual Company. And then prior to that, which she still does, I guess, is a Patreon. And she milks that Patreon by doing those cosplay things. But they're, on the borderline gray area. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, they gotta get a model up there, right? They gotta get a gaming model up there. A gaming model, right, Assassin? A gaming model? But yeah, definitely, Clownz just posted in the live chat right now Darshell's Twitter, so you can go check out who that is. But yeah, it was a train wreck. But we got to move on in the interest of time. But definitely, please let us know if you're getting Borderlands 3. Let us know so we can play with you, and also let us know which edition you're going for. 3 separate editions. And the Jizzle has brought it to my attention in the YouTube chat that the $100 version seems to be a limited edition release, which I didn't know that. But anyway. The technical difficulties were rough. Just No Elite says, yeah, it was cringeworthy. It was definitely cringeworthy. I know I talked to the Iron Lords after they were there. I talked to them at the Ace of Predator event that was happening on Friday, and they were telling me that the feeling in the room was just really cringy. It was really cringy. Oh, Jizzle says not limited edition, limited time pricing. Oh, okay, I gotcha. I didn't know that. So, all right, let's move on. Last topic of the show. Let's get through this kind of quickly. I don't want to bring too much attention to Jason Schreier. I think he's a good author. I think he's a great writer for Kotaku. I think he's excellent, but there's a lot of stuff that I think. Is he genuine, or does he do it for the clicks? I hate that. I wonder that about him, but I do think he's trending more on genuine. So I did want to bring up this article, and I think it's an important thing to kind of talk about and get these guys' opinions on it with this whole how BioWare's Anthem went wrong article. It's a really long read, so I encourage you to check it out, even though normally, me personally, I wouldn't necessarily do this about something on Kotaku. I'm not a huge fan of Kotaku these days, but Jason Schreier is a good guy, and he made some good points in this. So did you guys read this? There's a lot to digest in this Anthem thing. So, I don't know where you guys want to start. I think a good starting point about this would be the fact that the game wasn't even out of pre-production until like 16 months before release. Did you see that? The game was in development for like 7 years, and it took until like 16 months before release before somebody actually made a friggin' decision about what the game was going to be. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, I didn't. So you're probably gonna hate me, but I didn't really read the article. I read someone else. I got like bullet points of how like they had a name for the game, but EA didn't like it because of the legal probably issues for it. And that kind of just sucks. Like the whole everything I read just is really bad. I wish it was easier for them to make a better game, and then just have these issues.
What's crazy about that is the reason. Okay, so just to add a little bit more detail to what Assassin's saying, because this is one big point in the article, is that the game was initially called Beyond, but like literally a week before the E3 presentation in 2017 that made the game look so incredible, they changed the name, like literally a week before. And
didn't they have to then put some in the game to make the title
because the title didn't make sense, because they were like, okay, we had a theory of why to call it Beyond, right? And they were building, when they were story building prior to making the game, that's kind of like a standard process in this kind of thing. They had to come up with another name. A lot of that had to do with copyright reasons and how difficult it would be to get that copyright. But they were like, Anthem doesn't make sense, essentially. Like, why would we call it Anthem? There's nothing in the game about Anthem. And then, they made up what it is today. Good point on that. That's a big part of the article. And that's where it went wrong too. It's like these developers don't make good games if you're not making them based on like what the story is supposed to be or what you intended to make the game,
Yeah.
Clownz, you check out anything about this article? Not that you're surprised. BioWare, you've been, all of us really on this podcast, especially like you guys liked Andromeda a bit, but the writing was on the wall with BioWare, no?
Andromeda was an awesome game. People wouldn't give it a chance. I think BioWare was an excellent studio at one time. I don't know about today. It seems like they've been watered down, pushed around, bossed around by management kind of stuff. So I think EA kind of ruined BioWare, and I think EA ruins a lot of studios with their aggressive tactics on how they want stuff marketed, how they want to direct every bit and piece of things. It just seems like EA ruins a lot of stuff, and we've seen that. We've seen a similar situation when what was it? Oh man, I'm trying to think, and I lost the name of it. When Activision treated Infinity Ward pretty bad, a lot of the old members left Infinity Ward.
Yep.
And that's when kind of Ghost was produced, right? And that wasn't a great Call of Duty. So I think EA is going to destroy BioWare to that capacity, and I think it's going to ruin them, unfortunately. I think that Anthem is a great game. I had a lot of fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
It does get repetitive, and you can see it just seems like that BioWare wanted to do more with it, with the stories and the little town, but it just seems everything was cut short or something.
Yeah, they talked about that a little bit in the article as well, about the story really taking a hit because they couldn't agree fast enough on the story, and there are a lot of people on the development team that didn't know about the story soon enough. Usually with the storyboarding, when you're making games like this, everyone knows what the story's about before making the game, but instead with this game, they essentially made the mechanics and everything and then kind of threw the story in. and it was just so rapidly changing, man. Like the game was just so rapidly changing. It started out as one thing, then it was another, then it was another, then it was another. Then nobody can make a decision. And you made a good point about BioWare being watered down. It went from one studio to like three separate studio areas, you know, and then eventually when the game was kind of getting to a breaking point, they were realizing that there was going to be a problem with meeting EA's demands. They like funneled all the main traffic through one studio. But anyway, how that relates to the story is that in the story, I know you guys didn't necessarily, well, Assassin, you didn't pay attention to the story at all, but in the article they talk about certain situations that happen in the story that actually aren't even like legitimate. Like, for instance, there's a part in the story, I guess, and I didn't catch it either because I didn't get through the whole story, but I wasn't paying attention to it, that apparently in the story there's a point where they're talking about a person, or they're talking to a person that isn't even in the room. But they couldn't cut that out in time. I don't know if they've patched it since, but like they couldn't get that out in time, you know? Or they talk about like a certain event happening to like one of the javelins or whatever. What I can't remember the name. I'm such a fraudster. What is the name of the guys that
Javelins?
No, not javelins. The guys that are in the javelins. What do they call them again?
Oh, I don't know. I think they said it a few times, but you know, I feel like every character in the game started talking, and my ears just went.
Yeah, it was like freelancers.
Freelancer, yeah, freelancer. Thank you, yeah, freelancer, right? So the Andy Gamer, thanks in the chat. I just saw that freelancer, yeah. So apparently they talk about in the story, I don't know where this is at, but in the story they talk about a freelancer like getting their javelin destroyed or whatever, and that actually never even happens. If you pay close enough attention, like that never even happens in the story. So like the things like that they just, you know, we talked about half-baked games prior, you know, earlier in this podcast. They talk, it's stuff like that kind of like turns you off a bit, even if you don't pay attention to the story and you hear stuff like that. You know, when I read that, I was just like, wow, that's totally inexcusable. You know?
And then one point of the game's development, they had the flying, then at one point they removed it, and then they had to rebuild all of it all over again, because then they wanted flying.
Yep. And apparently the flying was just... And obviously the flying is cool, and the flying takes a game like this to the next level. Like, that is what makes Anthem... that's, in my opinion, the biggest thing that takes Anthem to really the next level. And they just couldn't lock it down. Like, they couldn't get the flying to work too well. And then they took it out, and then the executives at EA played it and said, no, you got, like, this isn't good. You got to bring back the flying somehow. And then they brought it back, but it wasn't working well. But just because it was in the game, EA executives were praising it, even though the people at BioWare knew the game wasn't good. But because the flying was in it, and because that was a new mechanic that, you know, EA saw money signs essentially, and it being different, and being cool, you know, even though it was really hard to implement, they didn't care, you know. And so,
can you imagine playing that game without flying?
Oh, dude, it would have been
boring it would have been.
I mean, dude, it's like a 50, what is it, like mid-50s of Metacritic? It's really low, but it would just be even lower. I mean, it would have been so boring.
Oh my god, yeah.
Please tell me you guys watch E.T. Yes, we've watched. Yeah, E.T.'s good. E.T.'s good. E.T. Phone Home. I don't understand that reference, why you said that in the chat, but that was a good movie. Kind of a little off topic, but that was a good movie. Is that in 4K now? I gotta see if that's in 4K. But yeah, let me bring up this other slide that I have here about this topic. Where is it? Why is this not working? Oh, there we go. Got it now. Okay, so this was kind of interesting that I saw here. Jason Schreier followed up the story the next day, saying, you know, he's been getting a lot of messages from, because he's really connected, so I mean, kudos to this guy, but he talks to a lot of people that have worked at AAA studios. He knows a lot of people, and he said, I've gotten a number of messages from developers who work or worked at beloved AAA studios saying, replace BioWare with my studio and it's the same story, which is heartbreaking, but I can't imagine anything changing unless we keep reporting and talking about these stories. So isn't that kind of crazy that like BioWare's getting the flack for this, and like Clownz was kind of alluding to, it's probably an EA problem, not necessarily a BioWare problem. Like it's a management issue. You know, it's not necessarily like the people that have been making the game. Like the people who make the game get a bad rap, but like the management and the publisher are probably the ones who've ruined it. And it seems that that's happening like across the industry, according to the sources that Jason Schreier has at different studios. Well, so it's kind of sad.
There is a friend of our show, and I've seen him talk live before. You guys probably know who he is, but he actually has said before that marketers ruin the game sometimes for the devs, because marketers will come in the room and they think they know how to direct the game when they can't even develop stuff, and they'll tell them, this is how we're going to market the game, so this is what you need to direct yourselves towards. So he said that kind of ruined the experience for him when his studio got so big, because they felt like that, you know, why is a marketing guy coming in here telling me how to develop a game that my studio was going to develop our own way, and now he kind of wants to change it around.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it sucks because money talks, right? And it proves that even big established studios like BioWare, who essentially is owned by EA, you know, even studios like this can crumble because of stuff like corporate greed, and can crumble over, you know, the decisions made by so few people. Like in that story you were just talking about with the marketers and stuff, like these people don't know anything. Like when people from EA forced Anthem to put back in the flying, and granted they should have, like the flying is what makes the game, but for them to stick it to BioWare and kind of like say, you've got to do this and you've got to hit these deadlines and you've got to do this and you've got to do that, even when they knew that the game was not finished, you know, that really, really sucks. Like it's not even a relationship. It's not like a dialogue there. It's like a dictatorship, you know? It's like you have to do this and you have to hit this goal and you have to release the game even if it's not finished. It kind of sucks. And it's because money talks, man. It's because money talks. What were you going to say, Assassin?
I don't know if I was going to say something.
Oh, I felt like you were going to. Sorry.
Nope.
Sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of an important thing to bring up, even if we brought it up kind of on a short basis here on the podcast, because I want to hear what people have to say about it. I mean, definitely comment below if you're watching this afterwards, and hit us up on Twitter if you want to give us your opinion on this, because like honestly, and the guys have said it here, Anthem is fun in its core gameplay, but it's just the things that need to be fleshed out that make it not good, you know? And like some of the bugs could be understandable, like the loading times were atrocious, and probably still are. I haven't played the game recently, but I know there's been patches to address that. But I mean, there's other bugs and stuff that are kind of inexcusable, but once you hear how rushed these people were, you kind of can excuse it. But when it comes to, you know, thinking of EA's part in pushing a game like this out when they knew it wasn't really finished or good, it sucks. It sucks, because we saw that E3 2017 demo of Anthem, and everyone was like dying about that. Like everyone was like dying, right? Yeah. I mean, everyone was like, wow, this is really next gen. This is next level. And then it comes out that a lot of it was staged, like that stuff wasn't actually ready for the game. And then we get the final version, and you know, people talk about graphical downgrades in games, you know, with Watch Dogs, and a lot of the Ubisoft games get graphical downgrades from their E3, and like Killzone, for instance. But like the core gameplay is still pretty much the same, you know, of what you were shown and what you expected. But like with this, it's kind of like we were all taken for a fool, I feel, and a lot of that is probably EA's fault. But All right, you guys got anything else, or are you guys ready to end this? I can't believe this podcast went an hour and 53 minutes. This is crazy. I thought this was gonna be like I thought this was gonna be a short podcast. I was telling the guys, I'm like, dude, we're gonna even at the beginning of the show, I'm like, we're gonna bang this out. This is gonna be a quick podcast. Talk about some of these stories, whatever. It's kind of dead, but wow, we really got into it. So kudos to the conversation during the show. And if you guys liked it, definitely hit that like button. Let us know. Give us a review on some of these sites like iTunes or whatever, Spotify, Google Play. Like, give us a review so that we get some more exposure, because those kind of things help. We're gonna be doing a giveaway for the 200th episode that we're gonna be announcing pretty soon. That I know I said we were gonna be doing it a while ago, but we're going to be doing it a little later, but we're still doing it, and I think you guys will probably enjoy that. But other than that, I think we're good. Assassin, what do you got planned going on? You got some streams coming up next week and at the end of this week. You gonna be streaming tomorrow? What do you got going on?
I think if Clownz is on tomorrow, we'll probably play some more Borderlands. If not, I'm going to start up that lovely Assassin's Creed 3 remaster.
Ew.
Good game. It might not look the greatest, but it's a good game.
Amen.
Yeah, so if you guys if you're interested in that type of thing, follow or subscribe on Twitch. Just look me up, ZPCI _Assassin, and yeah.
Perfect, excellent. Clownz, what's going on, man? What you been up to? Are you guys gonna do a 4GwQPodcast presents pretty soon? What's the schedule looking like?
Yeah, we're supposed to do one next week, so I've been talking to Cody on that, and we got a ton of comics to review. I can't even keep up. I think we have like 74 comics to review, all from major publishers now.
Nice.
And we've been invited to Comic-Con, so we're a little bit behind.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, weren't you guys invited to some big shows coming up?
Yeah, Cody went to the North Carolina Comic-Con. Okay. We got invited to a couple others too, but yeah, so he's supposed to cover that in the next podcast, and then the usual stuff like Crossfire, and then we got our awesome brothers at Tick are gonna be. I'm on their podcast on Saturday night, so yeah, you shout out to everybody.
Yeah, cool. So look out for that stuff. Look out for the giveaway for the 200th episode, which obviously it's after that episode, but we want to celebrate it in style. So look out for that.
Will Garrett be watching that giveaway?
I don't know. Well, we might have to have Garrett on for when we announce the winner of that. I think I'll reach out to him, since his Twitter bio still says that his favorite streamer is ZPCI Assassin. So I'll have to reach out to him, see if he wants to get some time on the program with him. But until then, we will see you guys next week. Peace.